When I decided that I'm going to paint miniatures, one of the first things I did was to go and watch a lot of YouTube videos to figure out what tools I need to even do this thing. These videos were a fantastic resource, and I'm still super grateful for all the YouTubers who made them because they helped me start out in the hobby. But over the years, I also figured out a couple of other tools that are maybe not so well known that I use on a regular basis. So in this video, I'm going to show you 5+1 tools that you can use to level up your miniature painting.
Hey guys, I'm Zoltan from PHLANSMINIATURE. Welcome back to the channel.
The first tool on the list is something that will help you with something that is relatively obvious. The fact that miniatures are tiny. If you watch my videos regularly, you might have noticed something occasionally peeking into the picture, and that thing is this. This is a magnifying glass that I recently started using. Before that, I was actually using this thing. And this is also really cool. It does the same thing, but it has a set lens in it. So it has the same focal length all the time. Whereas this one actually comes with a set of lenses that you can exchange. Not only that, but it also comes with its own light source. So if you really want to see all the little details, then this can help you quite a bit. And in general, what I use this for is usually the end of the painting process, when I am really going in for the small details, if I have to paint some of the eyes, or I want to have really precise edge highlights. And at this point you might be thinking, I don't need this because my eyesight is perfect, I can see every little detail on the model, but believe me, you don't. Because this thing not only lets you see what you would otherwise not see, but also magnifies everything. And that's tremendously helpful when you have to put in little details, like for example dotting in the eye or something similar. So is it extremely dorky? Well, let's see. Yes, it is. But who the hell cares, right? Because you are painting a miniature anyway. The second thing on the list is something that might look extremely gimmicky and something that you just buy because you cannot spend your money on anything else anymore. But hear me out. I'm sure that you're familiar with the problem of these guys. These are specifically Army Painter paints, and I'm sure there are other brands that do the same, but these have a weird gel medium, and when I started out painting, I didn't know that, and I just couldn't get them to work because they separated, they couldn't cover anything. And at first, I thought that it's the paint which is the problem, and well, maybe to a certain degree that's true because not every brand has this issue as much, but there are ways to overcome this. And of course you can just shake them very, very vigorously, you know, until your arms ache, or you can also put metal balls in them, and there is a lot of other methods, but there is one that is so much easier than anything else that it's not even comparable. And the magical solution to this problem is this little machine that looks like a UFO, but it's actually a vortex mixer, and it does basically what the name implies. It mixes stuff, and it does it really well. These days, this is sitting on my desk all the time, and almost as a reflex, whenever I reach for a new pot or bottle of paint, I put it on the mixer and make sure that it's shaken well, and then I have zero issues with separation. It's not exactly the most inexpensive thing out there for something that does something so specific, but believe me, once you have it, it's going to be really difficult to go back. As for the third thing on the list, if you have been painting miniatures for a while, I'm pretty sure you already have one of these. But the question is, do you have the right one? The thing I'm talking about is a wet palette, of course, and if you don't already have one of these and you are serious about painting miniatures, then you should just go and get one. Like immediately, just turn off the video and go and get one, you will thank me later. But not every wet palette is the same, and when I started out I was using my own, the one that I made myself based on some YouTube videos, and it was working quite okay, I would say. It wasn't great, but it was much better than not having any wet palette. Then I moved on and bought myself my first proper wet palette, which was, I think, this one, and it was pretty good. It was much better than the DIY one that I had before. But I had a couple of issues with it. It was a little bit too small, it was getting a little bit moldy occasionally because it was just not like closing as well as it should. And it wasn't letting as much water through the paper as I would want it to. Then I went through a couple more iterations which looked like this, for example, and I really liked this one. The only problem I had with it was the size. And once I figured that out and realized that what is really holding me back is just I don't have enough space on my wet palette, is when I ended up with this one. And once I got myself this one, I realized that I was missing out on the size all along. I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere. Because this actually allows you to have all the paints that you need for any given project, which is absolutely fantastic. And I know that this might seem a little bit excessive, having this huge wet palette when you can just have the small one, but believe me, this is a game changer, at least for me, because it's so much more convenient that I cannot even imagine going back to the small one. Okay, so for the fourth tool on the list, let's go with something that I would consider almost essential if you are at all serious about miniature painting. And of course, I'm talking about one of the most useful, but also one of the most daunting tools that you can use in a miniature hobby, and that is the airbrush. When I started out in a miniature hobby, I was actively trying to avoid using an airbrush or having an airbrush because it just seemed such a difficult thing to use, right? It required a lot of space, it was kind of expensive, it seemed almost like a hobby in itself. But as I was telling you before, I was watching a lot of videos, and of course then you cannot avoid seeing people use this really cool tool. And then I just had to have one. So I was doing a little bit of a research and found something that was really inexpensive, I thought, and just went for it. And that was basically the cheapest airbrush and compressor combo I could find on Amazon. And I have been using that ever since. As you can see, the airbrush is right here. It's a bit filthy from the outside, but I keep it clean on the inside. And I'm not gonna lie, it's not exactly the easiest thing to pick up, but once you get the hang of it, it allows you to do so many things that otherwise would be almost impossible or very, very difficult to do with the brush. And if someone tells you this is cheating, then, well, that's their opinion. But if you do a lot of cool things with it and you're having a lot of fun with it, then why the hell not? And once you try it out and you find that you like it, which you will, believe me, then you can buy yourself an even nicer one, which is this one. For example, in my case, the Infinity CR Plus. And I use this for detail work, whereas for everything else, I still use the old cheap one. But my advice would be to not go with the expensive one, but just buy the cheap combo with the compressor. Try priming, base coating, some simple highlighting with the airbrush, see how you like it, and you will once again. And then you can consider buying one of these. In my experience, even if you just prime and base coat your miniatures with the airbrush, it's already worth owning at least the cheap one. And I just don't use rattle cans, and I don't want to because I have an airbrush. For number 5, let's go with something really obvious, and that's brushes. And you already own a lot of brushes, I'm sure. You have your synthetic ones and your sable ones, but the question is, are you using the one that is the best for you? And there is no easy answer to this question, I think, because there is no such thing as an ideal brush, you know, all around. There is just an ideal brush for you. And over the years, I actually went through a lot of different brands for my fancy brushes. I went through Winsor & Newton, which is something that a lot of people like, Raphael, and then Artis Opus, and then nowadays I settled on something called Rosemary & Co. These brushes were actually suggested by one of my viewers on one of my previous videos, and I ordered a couple of them and found that these are the brushes that I like the most. In actual fact, I like them so much that I ordered a full set so that I have at least 2 of every single size. But this is not supposed to be an advertisement for this specific brand, because all the other ones that I showed you before could be the ones that you like the most. So my suggestion would be to try to find the brands that you are the most comfortable with and then to stick with it, or, you know, experiment a little bit further. So these are the 5 things that help me have more fun when I paint miniatures or do a better job or make it faster. But there is one more thing, so what is the plus one? Well, the plus one is not one product, but a lot of different products that do the same thing, which is basing. Basing your miniatures is one of those things that you just have to do, and either you love it or you hate it. But if you have the right products for it, in my experience, it becomes way more fun and also way more effective. This is just one of those things where having a lot of different things to do it with actually makes it easier and better. So the more of these you actually have lying around, the better your bases are going to be, the more choices you have, the more fun you are going to have with basing your miniatures. When I started painting minis, basing was one of those things that I really disliked for some reason, because it was just this additional thing that I needed to do when I was already done with the mini. Of course, you should not do the bases after the fact, right? That was already a mistake. So of course, I was just trying to do them as easily and as cheaply as possible, and I only had a couple of things. I think I had this, for example, from Citadel, of course, because everybody starts with Citadel, right? But then later I found other things that I could use instead, and they opened up new opportunities, new things I could do, and at some point, somehow it became fun. And of course, I'm not telling you to just go and buy $1,000 worth of hobby supplies just for your bases, But having 2 or 3 types of tufts at your disposal is beneficial compared to just having the one. Believe me, you are going to have better bases, you're going to have more fun doing them. So having a couple of things lying around for your bases is definitely something that will elevate your hobby a little bit at least. So these were the 5+1 hobby tools or hobby supplies that helped me elevate my painting over the years. Did I miss something? Is there something really big and obvious that most people don't know about and we should all use? Please let me know in the comments below. And in the meantime, thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you found something useful, and if you did, please consider giving it a like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. See you in the next one.